Hi, I'm Angie Hicks, co-founder of Angie. When you use Angie for your home projects, you know all your jobs will be done well. Roof repair? Done well. Kitchen sink install? Done well. Deck upgrades? Done well. Electrical upgrade? Done well. Angie's been connecting homeowners with skilled pros for nearly 30 years, so we know the difference between done and done well. Hire high-quality, certified pros at Angie.com.
Apparently, she set the odometer at zero for the trip odometer part at zero because she had a suspicion that you were using her car. Did she tell you that?
This is the plaintiff, Jerome Maida. He says he was hired by his co-worker, the defendant, to house sit and take care of her pets, and the woman is stiffing him. That's right, she agreed to pay him for his services. He spent 10 days at her house, taking care of her dog and cat, and he deserves to be paid the $300 he's owed. And he's suing. This is the defendant, Laura Toham. She says the plaintiff used her car while she was away and put almost 800 miles on it. She never gave him permission to use her car while he was house sitting. He betrayed her trust. And when she got home, she arrived to a huge mess of hair and dirt in her place. Oh, him? No way. She's accused of not paying for services rendered. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $1,100 for car usage and killing her plants.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Milan in our forum. The People's Court.
The People's Court is now in session, and the Honorable Judge Milan is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Maida, you are suing Ms. Toham for $300 for pet sitting you say she owes you. You're counterclaiming against him $1,100 in damages and usage of your car. Let me hear from you first, Mr. Maida.
Okay. I house sat for a total of 19 days, 3 in which Ms. Toham was in the hospital, 16 in which she was in Idaho. The 16 days was from November 1st to the 16th of 2021, and I forget the exact date in October because it was very quick.
And what was it you helped her out with?
As far as getting to the hospital, as far as picking her up from the hospital, as far as taking care of her house and her pets while she was in the hospital.
Okay, and what pets are we talking about?
Small cat and a small little like dog, small little like poodle-like dog.
Okay, all right. So had there been a discussion between the two of you about what you would be paid to do that?
Well, I just based on previous times I had pet sat. I had pet sat for like 10 days before, and I got him $200. This was a total of 19 days. And, you know, I just $300 would be more than fair. Okay. But was there any discussion between the two of you about getting paid and about whether you would be paid? Not until after she got back. Okay. And she said that because I put 700 miles on her car, that I would get about half. Did you put 700 miles on her car? I did not. Okay. Why was she saying that you did? I'm thinking that she was looking for excuses not to pay. And also, I did put some miles on her car. Back and forth to the airport was a total of 120 miles. Back and forth to the airport was 120, and you did that twice, right? No, to the airport, I know it was like 60 round trip. So I did 60 round trip. All right, but she apparently set the odometer at zero for the trip odometer part at zero because she had a suspicion that you were using her car. Did she tell you that? Well, I had told her I used my car. I had told her I had to use my car. Your car or her car? Her car. Oh. again, in one of the other pieces of evidence, it would have taken me an extra. I had just started a new job that I'd been trying to get the last week, and I would have taken me 7 extra hours using public transportation to drive. And I want to be back because I remember the one time when I was taking care of the dog, and the dog, I hadn't been able to get back in a while, and the dog was literally shaking because it was trying to be a good dog and not pee all over the place. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to make sure that I took care of her.
So did you speak with her beforehand and say, I'm going to take your car to and from work?
No, I did not say that.
All right. Were you two friends?
Yes.
How did you two meet?
We met at Walmart.
Like just crossing each other's paths at Walmart?
Yeah, well, she was in front of me in line, and we started talking about, she was writing a book, and I'm a writer, and so we got to talking about different things, and we became friends. She even invited me over to 4th of July. So, I mean, it's really disappointing.
Okay. He says you owe him for dog sitting and cat sitting and house sitting. What say you to that, Ms. Tohom?
I say that originally we did not have a discussion about how much I would pay him, but yes, I had thought in my mind that I would pay him $300. It was about what I can afford. I'm a single mom, and I was grateful of his services for that particular time when I went to Idaho. And so I planned to pay him, but I did have a suspicion in the past when I was gone before that he was using my car. So like you said, I set the speedometer to 0. I didn't tell him because, of course, I don't want him to know that I'm checking to see. And on the phone while I was in Idaho, I told him, do not use my car. He actually does not have a driver's license. And I realized
Do you have a driver's license, Mr. Maida?
Currently, no.
So when I got back and I saw that he had put it was 732 miles, which I took away from knowing that he probably, he did. Even though I knew he didn't have a license, I did have him pick me up from the airport. Oh
yeah, yeah, exactly. You're way above me. You're totally insulted that his license was suspended for. Did you ever ask, why don't you have a license, to find out?
He told me it was a mix-up because of his father's same name.
Okay. All right. So you have him without a license dropping you off and picking you up because it's convenient for you then. All right. So go on.
Yes. And so when I right away, I talked to him and said, hey, you just put 700 miles on my car. I don't think that's fair. I told you not to drive. He never said anything. He never apologized. He never gave a reason. He didn't explain there was an emergency or he needed to come back and make sure that he was here to take care of the dog or whatever. He never gave me any kind of excuse. He said nothing. And I said, well, I'll pay $150. That was before I got into my house. When I got into my house, all my plants were dead. He was supposedly living or staying here at my house for the 2 weeks because it actually was pleasurable for him because he's having problems with his roommates at his house. So I would have been fine with him coming, checking on the dog, taking him out.
Did you ever go over with him what you expected in terms of taking care of the house?
No, I did not, and I know that's my bad. I actually said that to him. I said, it's my bad that I didn't communicate that I would want you to water my plants if you're staying here for 2 weeks. It's just a courteous thing that I would have done, so I can't expect that. I didn't voice that.
Yeah, like people who don't have their own plants maybe don't quite get it. I mean, and they're not even looking to see how the plant is doing, and they don't even notice that the plant is wilting because they're not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, all right. Now, you have a counterclaim against him for $1,100. Tell me about that.
Well, we had been meeting. He's doing a project for me. We met at Walmart, and I hired him. So that's a different issue. You hired him to do what? To ghostwrite a book? Yes.
All right, so that means you're writing a book, but you have help from someone who says that they're an author in order to write the book. And what happens?
Well, for that, I actually have to do another claim because he breached a contract and lost all my recordings after a year.
Okay, I understand that's a separate case, but I can see from the text that that's when everything goes to hell. So I'm interested in learning a little bit about this. How did you find out that he had lost the recordings?
Well, I was starting to make moves with my branding coach, and we were reaching out to different organizations because my book is it's going to be a good story. It's going to help hopefully a lot of women and girls overcome traumas, so my recordings were very personal. And I was excited that we had already finished the interviews. I was meeting with branding coaches and starting to do things for branding, podcast plans, things like this. So
how many hours of interviews had you concluded?
Well, a year, and within those years, that year, probably about 50 hours, possibly.
50.
Yes. It's more than one book, actually.
And what happened? How did he lose the tapes?
He just out of the blue texted me that his problems that he was having at his house, they stole the recordings.
Who's they?
His property manager or landlord or something, I don't know. But that's my personal story, so it was a huge violation.
Mr. Maida, you want to respond to that?
Yes, briefly. I feel this is retribution for, this one case is retribution for this.
Wait, which case is retribution for which case?
I believe that, she's countersuing, and the reason she's not paying me is because she's upset about the book, which are separate things.
Right, but you're the one who went to court and filed this lawsuit. And you filed the case in late February, early March. You still had not been paid for October, November, and you hadn't filed a case yet. When you filed the case is when you two get into the argument about the tapes, right?
Well, that's when I realized I would realize I was never going to get paid.
She paid you $900 so far, correct, to help her ghostwrite. What's the actual agreement between you guys?
Originally, it was $1,500, $900 before, and then $600 when it was done.
Okay. And what experience do you have as an author?
I wrote a column for 17 years for the Philadelphia Daily News.
Okay.
I've written biographical comic books for a company called Blue Water, and I wrote a graphic novel on Humphrey Osama bin Laden called Geronimo.
I have two children very into graphic novels. I don't get the allure, but apparently they're very popular. So it isn't until many months later that everything hits the fan. And what happened to her tapes? It's such a personal thing to have stolen.
Well, Your Honor, one thing again, irregardless of what happens.
Regardless, there's no such word as irregardless.
Okay, regardless, thank you. I should know that. Regardless of what happened to the tapes, the book was not supposed to be due until November. I specifically got another recorder, and I was willing to do more work.
But what did happen to right, but maybe she doesn't want to go through the trauma again. I presume this is about trauma and overcoming trauma.
Exactly,
and,
right.
Yes.
So, let me ask you, what do you think happened to the recordings?
I don't know. The only people with access to my room were either an exterminator, property manager, or the landlord, and I don't know because there's been issues there. So I don't know. But was anything else missing besides the recordings? Not that I know of.
How would they know to take the recordings? Were the recordings all inside of the recorders?
No, it was a digital recorder.
It was one digital recorder?
It was two digital recorders.
And they were filled with the story?
No, they weren't filled with the stories because that's one thing that was blatantly false that Ms. Tolan said, that there was 50 hours worth of. We had never gotten anywhere close to that point because every single time when I was able and more able to come and do an hour's worth, we might have done maybe 10 hours worth of recording. So that's just a falsehood.
Was that the beginning of the recordings, or was that all of the recordings?
No, that was all of them.
That was all of them.
Because, again, obviously after an hour or so, it is, tough things to talk about. I do acknowledge that. But, it was always an excuse. It was always, I don't feel well. I have to pick up the kids. I have to just. So now she finally has a job, and she says she doesn't have time. I went home to Pennsylvania to take care of my mother and see her pass away. And I knew I was going to be quarantined before I saw her. And I said, that would be a perfect time. Let's get this done. I mean, I'm willing to do it. I'm not saying I'm not going to get it done. And let's work something out. And she didn't want to hear it. Immediately, it was like, you broke our agreement. Like, no, I'm willing to get it done.
All right, let me hear from you, Ms. Tom, on the $1,100. You have decided to, rather than deduct $150 from what you were going to pay him to house sit, you have decided you're going to charge $800 for 16 days of car rental and impose a rental agreement where there was none. You've also decided that you're going to sue for $150 for brake pads. How are you pinning that on him? What did he do to wear down your brake pads? It takes a long time to wear down brake pads.
Well, I have a suspicion, Judge, that he actually took my car to San Diego, and that's probably why there's 700 miles on it. And the brake pads were fine until...
Who's taking care of your pets if he takes the car to San Diego?
I don't know.
Welcome back to the People's Court. I'm Harvey Levin. The plaintiff says he took care of the defendant's cats and dogs for 10 days and then got stiffed. But the defendant says she came home to a huge mess of hair, dirt, and dead plants. So this guy deserves nothing. Let's go back into the courtroom.
He had asked me to hire a U-Haul for him in the couple months prior, and he needed to take some items to an ex-relationship or something. So I'm thinking 700 miles. Why would you?
Okay, but how does that justify him buying you new brake pads?
I just threw it in there just because I knew that I had to replace them.
And then $50 for plants. I saw where you texted back, oh, the plant perked back to life. Oh, this other plant perked back to life. See, all they need is water. So did he actually kill any plants, or you're just like, it's kind of $50 for the pain and suffering of the plant? Like, I'm trying to figure it out.
No, there was 4 plants replaced. I actually have them there. I had bought new plants, yes. I didn't send a picture of those new plants, though, but I do have them.
All right. Have you guys spoken to each other since all of this happened in February, or you guys are no longer friends and you haven't spoken to each other?
No, she hasn't. She immediately was that I'm a scammer and this, and I don't take kindly to name calling, especially when, again, I'm willing to do a job, because all of a sudden now it's not 100% convenient for her to do it right now, and she doesn't want to do the work over again. She wants to. She's the one who wants to. Most people don't want to do the work over again. Well, I saw in the text that her basic premise was then get it back from them. Like, she wanted you to contact a property manager to confront them. But I don't know for a fact who has it.
I know. I mean, I can understand being angry at him not safeguarding them. You say backing it up. I'm not sure where you'd back it up when it's, I mean.
Well, actually, Judge, if I may, I have hired a new ghostwriter, and she does back up her work. And I was actually not planning on, even though I'm probably have a good chance of winning a case against him, I didn't have time to be in the negative, but I just wanted to move forward. And so actually, she does back up her work, and she provides me chapters every month. So she's not just waiting a whole year of doing the interview. She's writing as the interviews are taking place. So it's a different experience. And like your saying goes, sometimes when you pay cheap, you get cheap. And so that's what I feel happened here.
You are?
Yeah.
Just getting back to the house sitting, though, the idea that they agreed upon, like I said in it, I believe I presented as some evidence, to house sit a pet is a responsibility. Okay, and most people...
Mr. Maida, the only thing I'm concerned about, I know what I pay when I pay a pet sitter, and I pay a pet sitter a lot more than this. But that's not relevant to me. The only thing that's relevant is what's the agreement I'm supposed to be enforcing. And the agreement I'm supposed to be enforcing is she pays you what she thinks she feels like paying you. That's the agreement, because you get to stay at her house, and apparently that's desirable, and apparently you get to use the car, and whatever else. So I don't care what the going rate is. I care what your agreement is. So it sounds to me like you were expecting $300 only because after you did it, she said she was going to pay you $300, not because you actually talked about it beforehand. And then she says, well, I've decided that because you used my car so much, I just want to pay you less. I'm thinking about $150. And you're like, yeah, fine, $150. And then she doesn't pay you that. I think you're entitled to the $150. On your lawsuit against her, I am going to award you $150. Now, on your counterclaim against him, you want to create a car rental situation in a situation where there is none. Your first gut, 4 months earlier, 3 months earlier, whatever it was, was that you were just going to reduce the house sitting fee.
Yes.
And that was good enough for you, but then now that he sued you, now it's $800. That doesn't create an $800 obligation where there is none. You have no evidence on the brake pads, and the only evidence I see on the plants is that they perked back to life. So on your counterclaim 0, of course, you're free to sue him for, losing the tapes and whatever. That's your business, and whether you want to proceed with that or move on, that's up to you. That has nothing to do with my case here. But on the plaintiff's case against the defendant, $150.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
So in this pet sitting case, the plaintiff is going to get money. Not what he wanted $300. He's only going to get $150. Mr. Maida, let me ask you a quick question. You were 19 days at her house for $150. That sounds like you work pretty cheap. That's not much money, is it?
No, I'm a little disappointed by that. I'm glad that at least I'm getting something, and I'm glad that she obviously saw that, it's an arrangement. She should honor it to some extent. And I'm, obviously definitely glad she saw no merit in her countersuit. So, I'll learn for next time. I thought she was a friend, and unfortunately, she showed her true colors.
Ms. Toham, we didn't hear how everything worked out with the pets. Were they okay? The car was one big issue.
The pets were alive. You're right. The pets were alive, so I guess that's the good outcome. Yes. That's
kind of the most important thing, because that's why you had him stay there anyway. I don't know. Interesting how you meet somebody in Walmart and just start chatting, and all of a sudden they're living in your house. That's something else. Well, in any event, you have to pay him $150. How about you? Okay with that?
I am, and I will be doing my own suit for the other issue. So we'll see what
that's a whole different ballgame.
Thank you.
All right, Harvey, what do you think?
Okay, so riddle me this, Doug. If somebody sues somebody for something, but that other person says, well, you owe me money too, it is called something that relates to Cardi B. The answer is offset. You are allowed to offset what you owe by what somebody else owes you.
Marilyn, are you an optimist or a pessimist? What do you think?
Well, I think I'm a happy person.
Okay.
But
that suggests optimism.
That suggests optimism.
Right.
But I am also very much a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I'm very much Jorge Milan's daughter.
Right.
And
which means you're cynical and you don't trust anybody.
I don't trust anybody. I just assume someone is trying to stick it to me at all times.
All the time.
All the time. So I'm just always looking to make sure I'm not taken advantage of.
Usually they are.
Because they are. So it's kind of, I don't know whether I would call that a pessimist. Sounds so negative.
Yeah.
Luck favors the prepared, and I just prepare all the time for the wrong or bad thing happening.
Right.
Does that make me a pessimist? I don't think so. But
I think you're generally optimistic, I guess.
What about you?
I think the same. I'm pretty satisfied and happy with my life, so that
you should be.
That suggests optimism, right?
Right.
And I'm always looking for something good to come out of the bad situations, and looking for a bright side.
I think that you assume it's all gonna go as planned.
I do. I'm more of a Pollyanna. What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Everything will go right. Yeah.
Right.
I just assume everything's gonna go right.
Once you get the impression that something could go wrong, when it becomes a reality to you, this is how you behave.
What?
Oh my God, this is a catastrophe of biblical proportions. It's like the sky is falling.
Right.
It's bizarre because you are otherwise so happy-go-lucky.
Yeah.
But that's true, what I just said.
Every now and then reality slaps me across the face. That's
right, yes, but then you overreact. It's a disaster of biblical proportions. The kids make fun of you about that all the time.
They do, those rotten little snots. To straighten them out.
This is the plaintiff, Samara Gent. She says she agreed to attend a 50th birthday party in Barbados for the defendant, her cousin. But COVID shut the island down and the party had to be postponed. She couldn't make the alternate date because she was scheduled for hip surgery. Her cousin won't return the $1,100 she paid for the trip, and family or no family, she's suing her. This is the defendant, Tanya Muldrow. She says she offered to let people cancel the trip in May of 2020 when COVID hit, and some of her guests dropped out, but not her cousin, the plaintiff. She eventually went on the trip with other family members. Her cousin saw all the great pictures of everyone having fun and is now turning around and trying to get her money back because she's upset she didn't go. She's accused of conning a cousin.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff is suing her cousin. They were going to go on a trip to Barbados. The plaintiff gave the defendant money in advance. The whole trip got canceled, but the defendant won't return the cash. Now, the defendant says the plaintiff is just upset because other people went on the trip and had a great time. It's the case of kissing cousins. They're not.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Ms. Gant, you are suing your cousin, Ms. Muldrow, for $1,100 that you want refunded on a vacation you weren't able to take. Tell me the circumstances.
Yes, we were supposed to go on a trip in 2020. I want to say August. Was my cousin's 50th birthday. It was canceled due to COVID.
When was it canceled?
I want to say around June of 2020.
Okay.
That's what information she gave me through text.
And did she tell you through text why it was being canceled? Was the resort actually closed?
From what I know, yes, they were.
Okay. And what's Ms. Muldrow, were they actually closed in August, or were people able to go in August?
No, they were not closed. People were able to go in August.
Okay, that's interesting. So in any event, though, the hotel gave an opportunity, or the hotel, the trip, the Airbnb, whatever it was, gave an opportunity to postpone the trip because of the circumstances. Is that correct, Ms. Muldrow?
Yes, because of the fact that they wanted people to quarantine. They were open, but they wanted people to quarantine.
Yeah, so you get to Barbados and then you spend the first 11 days quarantining, and then so it's nuts. All right, so a decision is made in June to postpone. Is a decision made in June what date to postpone to, Ms. Gant?
She claimed it was postponed to the next year, following year.
Right, because this was a birthday trip, so it was going to be the same time. And did you at that point in time say, I'm out?
Yes.
In August, you said that.
I said it before August.
I'm sorry, in June. In June, you said that. In June, you said that. All right.
Yes.
Do you have? You're nodding, Ms. Muldrow. Did she say in June that she wouldn't be able to make it the following August?
In June, she said she was nervous about not getting a passport in time, and so she was trying to find a replacement. Because I told her the only options was to find a replacement or to get traveler's insurance.
Okay. Did you ever get traveler's insurance, Ms. Gant?
No, because I didn't plan the trip. Tanya planned the trip. All I know was she sent me everything to text. Everything
right, including one of the texts she sent you was, everybody better get travel insurance because this isn't looking good. And so did you get travel insurance?
No.
Did other people get travel insurance, Ms. Muldrow?
Yes, my sister, who paid in full and could not attend the trip, did get traveler's insurance.
Did she get paid back in full or no?
I'm not sure, but she didn't ask me for anything, so I believe so.
Yeah, you don't know. That traveler's insurance has so many exceptions, sometimes I just wonder. But let me ask you this. When was the decision made to move the trip to August of 2021?
I believe it was in June of 2020 or July.
Okay, so in June or July of 2020, when that decision is made, is she part of the group that gets the group text suggesting let's move it until next year?
Yes, and she agreed. Everybody agreed.
Everybody agreed. Directly to her, you say on July 20th, hey, cuz, more than likely we will be postponing the trip to August 2021. Raven probably won't be able to go then, so if you're still interested in going, I'm sure you can get a passport and plane ticket by then. Let me know. I desperately want to know what she answered to this.
Okay.
And while she's looking for that, let me go back to you, Ms. Gant. I do see in October 28th, I have a copy of a text that you send to her saying, hey, good afternoon, cuz. I'm texting you because I got good news and bad news. The bad news is I won't be able to go on a trip next year because I'm getting my hip replacement done in June. And then what? You two don't talk to each other after that? Because I see December 1st, good morning, cuz. You never got in touch with me. I'm trying to find out before the beginning of next year, and I won't be able to get a refund. Let me know what needs to be done, please. All right, so if you're texting her in October, I got good news and bad news, and the bad news is I can't go, what had you said about going between July 20th, when she texts that text I read out loud, that it's going to be August of 2021, and October, when you text that text I read out loud saying good news and bad news, I can't go? I'm presuming that if you feel the need to say you can't go then in October because of the surgery you scheduled, that you had in fact agreed to the rescheduled August 2021 date.
I did text her that, but before that, like in June when they canceled it, I already told her I couldn't go. At that time, we were trying to figure out.
I'm going to need to see that. You know how both of you keep swearing that you've got the best evidence in the world that you're right? I'm going to need to see what you just said. I texted her in June and told her I couldn't go because the text I see in October sounds like you're breaking news. It doesn't sound like you ever said you couldn't go before. So you find that text in June. Ms. Muldrow, did you find the response to the July 20th text?
No, there was no response to that text. I don't know if it was through phone call, because we did have several phone calls.
Okay, great. So now she says the phone calls she canceled. You saying the phone calls she didn't until October. And I got to say, when I'm looking at that October text, it looks like it's news. It doesn't look like you're reiterating something you said before. See, there was a time when refunds could have been granted, and that time was before you call it on rescheduling it until the following August. And maybe the refunds could have been granted. I don't know what Barbados was doing. I know what America was doing, or most places in America, and we're saying, okay, if you can't come now because there are restrictions, can you reschedule? And then most people were rescheduling, and then some people were going to court and saying, no, I want my money back. And then some people were giving the money back without you having to come to court. It's a potpourri of resolutions. But in any event, what I have here, clearly from your text in October, is you giving breaking news that you scheduled your surgery for June and won't be able to go next August. So you're going to need to prove to me that you tried to cancel and never agreed to the August date, because this wouldn't need saying. It wouldn't need saying what you wrote in October unless you had agreed to the August date, August of 2021.
Okay, I understand. Again, in June, when she stated, we spoke through phone a lot. We even called the resort, the villa, to try to resolve with them. Also.
And what did they say?
They said it was no refund. Right. It has to be postponed.
Okay.
That was their words.
So it gets postponed to August, and at the time, you're okay with that because you don't know that you're going to get surgery in June. You find out you're going to get surgery in June, September, October, 2 months later, when you send that text, you see. Actually, 3 months later, because it's July, August, September, October. So 3 months later, you send a text saying, I got good news and bad news. Either way, it's news.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So
I was hoping I could get.
Yeah. You were hoping you'd be able to get it together for August, right?
No, I was hoping I'd get my refund because I knew I wasn't going to be able to.
I know, but how's she going to give you a refund? If you called the Airbnb yourself, you know that their policy was we're not giving you a refund. So then it gets rescheduled, and it gets rescheduled. It's not like it got rescheduled without consulting you. I see that you were consulted. I see that you were sent a text, and I see that you don't have on record any complaint about the new date until October, which kind of leads me to believe that you were hoping you could make the new date and okay with it. So unless you show me that you said in August or in July, back then, sometime before October, because your text is dated October. In fact, October 28th, it's almost November. Okay, that's when your text says, I'm texting you because I've got good news and bad news. The bad news is I won't be able to go on the trip. If that didn't need saying, why are you saying it October of 28? Seems to me like it's because it needed saying, because you were on board between July, August, September, and most of October until the 28th. It isn't until you saw a doctor and scheduled your surgery. So how is she going to get you your money back? Why would you think you were going to get your money back? And by the way, why didn't you just get insurance the way everybody else did? Because I do see her saying that over and over in the texts.
Yes, my name was in the text, but I don't remember her saying. She told, when I heard about the insurance, that was after the fact of when I was trying to get someone to cover my space, because she was saying, well, we'll see if we can get someone to cover your space and you can get the money that way.
Oh, which she was saying that back in June and July of 2020. In fact, here we go.
That's when I canceled. That's when I told her.
No. You canceled the trip October of 2020. You can keep telling me you canceled the trip in June or July. Watch this. Ms. Muldrow, did she cancel the trip in June or July?
No.
Right. So you're going to have to prove that fact to me. And if anything, your text to her in October sounds like you were breaking news. So let me ask you, did you get anybody to cover your space?
No, but she said she had 2 people with Andrea, and Andrea did go, and I never received any money.
Okay, did Andrea take someone else's slot, Ms. Muldrow?
I told her if I could fill, because I had 2 houses. I had to cancel one house, which the deposit was lost. So I told her.
Who lost the money? Well, I guess everybody, because everybody helped pay for that one, right?
Right.
Right, go on.
So the first house was for 10 people. I said if I could fill that house, then I would give her a refund.
Did you fill the house with 10 people?
No, 9 people. I had to pay for the 10th spot, plus my spot.
Yeah, no. Ms. Gant, when you come into court, you're the one with the burden of proving that you had a right to cancel and get your money back under these circumstances. Everyone knows they're dealing with a foreign country. You specifically know, because you made the phone calls, that the Airbnb in Barbados said, we are not returning your money, you need to reschedule. I know from your text in October that it was brand new news that you decided to schedule your hip surgery for June. And you can do that. You can do that. You're free and American. Do what you want to do. The question is, are you then entitled to make her pay you money? Because you now can, in October, decide that you cannot go in August of 2021 when it is pretty clear that everybody agreed to August of 2021. Otherwise, there wouldn't be news to break in October of 2021. I'm finding in favor of Ms. Muldrow in this case. Good luck, ladies.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff fails to prove to the judge that she deserves the $1,100 back, and she just doesn't get it. Ms. Gent, what's this done for your relationship with your cousin? How about that?
Nothing much. I still love her regardless. We don't have no problem.
All right, Ms. Muldrow, I'm sure you feel better now, right? You all right with your cousin suing you?
Yeah, I'm glad it's over with. I told her I didn't mind her taking me to court. I wanted her to know I was being honest with her and I wasn't trying to get over on her. And I also wanted her to know that getting traveler's insurance was important. And so she should take that, for the future.
Yeah, well, that's good advice. That's very good advice. And the judge mentioned that indeed. All right. Well, you have prevailed. Congratulations, and stay at peace with your cousin. That's important too. All right. Okay. All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for this case. Let's see what Harvey has to say. Mr. Levin?
Doug, this is kind of an aside, but there was testimony that the trip may have been canceled at one point, they said, because of COVID. The laws on cancellations over COVID, honestly, are still developing. Courts were really flat-footed with this, and they haven't fully worked it out, and they vary from state to state. So I think this is something that is going to take years to resolve.
My mother says after she is gone, I can stay in her house as long as I can afford it. She cannot afford an attorney to put it in writing. Is there anything I could do to protect myself so the other siblings cannot force a sale of the house to get the money?
It used to be that this would have been a really complicated affair. You'd have to go find a lawyer who specialized in wills and trusts and things like that, and sit down with him or her and work it all out and create a complicated will, perhaps.
Or even a simple will, but you still had to pay a lawyer.
Yeah, you had to pay for it. And now this stuff is pretty much available online, state by state. You could find kits that are available online that might cost you less than a couple $100.
Right.
So that might be one way to go. You could also just research.
Do your own research.
Do your own research, and it might be that
because now everything's at your fingertips with the internet, so you can, and you better go to the right sources to look at it and be right.
Right.
It's all going to be about making sure that that was her intent and that she was of sound mind at the time.
Exactly.
Right. But you don't have to hire, $3,000 lawyer. You can figure this out in this day and age.
Absolutely.
And do it.
And where there's a will,
there's relatives.
Absolutely.